My concern is the cannabis, and to bring some light to what the topic is the concerns of the accessibility into our community that could detriment not only the children in our community, but in the community as a whole. Some of the facts that I've been reading about the cannabis is that the money that's in the cannabis industry really overshadows some of the mental disorders that children and other people are having. And this is right out of the American Heart Association, that they found over in a population of 2,500 teens, they found over 70% of the THC vapors reported excessive anxiety symptoms, along with worrying, flashbacks, and panic attacks due to the THC that's in the cannabis. And that's compared to just on a general percentage of about 40% that never vaped before, and this was done by the University of Columbia University in New York. And it's all about some of the retail efforts on the cannabis, along with, when you look at it, it's kind of following the money. On the retail side, it's kind of small potatoes, but if you're to follow the money, there's a lot to be learned about that because it's the larger perspective. And I guess the main point I want to make, that we start at the retail level, that I'm sure this will be talked about. It can only foster a larger percentage of larger dealers and small pop shops, from the small pop shops, into growing an industry that would not benefit our community, our families, our community, and the surrounding communities. You know, we know our neighbor to the south, to the north of us, Leone Township has had this. Are there any facts that it's improved other than the tax base that I'm sure they're benefiting from? But as a whole in a community, it would be detrimental.
My first one was, why is this meeting not communicated to the public? I did receive a letter. I participated in a survey that was done last year. But my next door neighbor that's here didn't know anything about it. As far as the cannabis, yeah, the selling of it and the money, but also the smell.
Yeah.
You go to any of these processing areas, especially down, I think it's in Addison. I know up north in the UP, 3 months out of the year, you can't, it's horrible. So it's a smell pollution, I don't think it's pollution, but there's also, I came from Lake Somerset, where there was a farm there with manure. And that, you'd be out on the lake and you could get a big whiffs of it, and it was awful. Why would you want to live with that, you know? So having it here and the smell processing of it, which it says in here too, is passive processing, not just the sales, and the growth. There's a lot of farm areas too here, so then you've got it being grown. That concerns me greatly because that impacts our life, you know, lifestyles. It impacts our values of our homes.
Today, the American Heart Association must have known that we were doing this because they published a paper of their findings. And I'm not saying I'm for or against it, I'm just bringing some data, some questions I have. They noticed that daily users, and this included edibles, vaping, smoking, 25% heart attacks are on the rise, 42% higher odds. And people can dispute research, but here's the other side of the research. There's not much research on cannabis. I work in the medical field, and we're dealing with this issue out there. And we recognize not a whole lot of research, probably much like when tobacco came out, we didn't know all the ills about that, and now there's warning labels.
So with all due respect, we are a little disappointed in the way the township has gone about collecting feedback from the community on this issue. So as most people probably know here, a brief survey was sent out with a response requested by mail. This was sent to only property owners. So our questions are, do you believe this generated a representative sample of your constituents in Columbia Charter Township? Because I personally don't. I'd like to know how many letters were sent out, how many answers were sent back, how many registered voters are in Columbia Charter Township, and I can tell you that because I looked it up. It's 6,681 based on reporting from yesterday's primary. And just a reminder, your youngest voters were born in 2006, which can be startling to realize that, whereas the median home buyer age is 49 years old. So questions, how are you representing the voice of voters such as myself who fall into that 31-year age gap? How would you expect any voters who are not property owners who received that letter a few months ago to know about this meeting tonight? Do you think this room is a representative sample of the community and our voters? So we just hope that you don't base your decision on this limited sample of responses from a small portion of this community.
We would like to preface this discussion by reminding the room that we are not here to discuss the merits of cannabis or our personal feelings on the substance. The state of Michigan has already decided that the cannabis has both medical and recreational value. In fact, Columbia Township had an approval rating of 65% for medical in 2008 and 53% for recreational in 2018. The purpose of this discussion is to decide if we want to allow legal cannabis businesses to operate in our municipality. The decision should be made on facts, not personal thoughts or self-righteousness. It is your duty to represent all of your constituents, and remember, they don't all look like you, think like you, and certainly don't own property like you.
My number one concern is air quality, ground quality. It hasn't been studied, and that's my greatest opposition, is that there hasn't been any good research anywhere.
Our house is located next to an individual who chooses to use their marijuana at their choice and grows. There's a time period during the summer, speaking of the time period during the summer, that it's harvest time. We've got to shut our windows and stay inside. Kind of makes it tough to enjoy Columbia Township and the outdoors. So that's our personal feelings. My personal feeling, do what you want. It's your own time. There's time and a place for everything. That's fine. Health-wise, everybody chooses tobacco, alcohol, marijuana. Feel free to do what you want there. The upside of what was supposed to be at Leone Township, to have so many dispensaries and so many grow facilities at every corner to drive through town. There's a Dairy Queen right in town. Go over to my grandparents, walk down the road, and you're smelling it. And it's like, oh man, kind of a deterrent. Columbia, Brooklyn has got a beautiful downtown, multiple ice cream shops. I know that in discussion there's, hey, where are we gonna do this? Where does it make sense to do it? That kind of a thing. So that's kind of up in the air. It's a deterrent away for Leone Township for a young family such as ours. That's my thoughts on that. The other thing, I'm part of construction, commercial construction. There's many places over Battle Creek area that a lot of these deals are done, here's your payment in a paper sack. Now, starting out in cash, building, I know there's talks of funds and how the township is going to get money, tax money, revenue out of this. If we're starting off our deals with paper cash, how traceable, trackable is this at the end of it? So those are some of my questions of how it's going to be done. Licensing, yeah, okay, so maybe if this does get passed, maybe up front, here's a large licensing cost, collect your money up front.
What goes on, I know I'm going to get booed, but a lot of this is big money from other states, and they could care less about you. They'll tell you, you do the beautiful site plan review. I've done them. I could show you the places. I've done the site plan reviews. They'll tell you everything you want to know, and you'll set conditions on it and say yeah. And it's a disaster. And they'll lie through their teeth to get in there, because once they're in there, it's like you can't do anything about it. Just like if somebody wants something big, going down the village of Addison, the south of Village Addison, there's a great big complex. They ran out of money, and I think it's complete, a big grow operation and the whole 9 yards. And what has happened though, on the front end, some of the municipalities that jumped right on board got big money out of it, but the money is diluted down from the state to the point where there's not that much money that you think you're gonna get out of this versus what's gonna cost your police department and other things in dealing with complaints. So I would suggest that your planning commission might want to network and reach out and talk to some of the other places that have got involved with this. But in the village of Cement City, we got sued by a big corporation to try to come in, and we fought it, and they didn't come in, and we're not allowing anything. Praise God, you guys you're at a point where you can say no so far.
I think it's a big mistake. I'm gonna be blunt. And the smell is horrible. Just drive down, hit Monroe and go to Bulls Harbor where my brother lives. All kinds of facilities. It stinks like holy hell. It's terrible. It's terrible. And I thank the gentleman for stepping up from Cement City and giving that the information forward to the board. It sounds like, you mentioned yourself, first time you've gone through something like this. Anytime you're looking at something and you're looking through a big hole that there's no bottom to and you can't see where it's going, step back and don't go in it. That's my strong suggestion.